just waiting for another panelist to come in. We have, I'm the moderator. My name is Iram. I think you can see my name at the bottom left there. We have Caroline Brooks with us. She works at John Hancock Insurance Company, and she's an expert in the areas of estate tax and business planning. So if you want to ask her a question, or Caroline, maybe you can start maybe talking about some of your experiences.
Sure, of course. So, my background, like Iram said, is, I worked for a number of years as an estate planner. So I'm an attorney kind of by trade. And for the last 5 or so years, I've actually been in an in-house role at John Hancock Insurance. So in my current role, I don't work with clients directly, but I do have the opportunity to work with insurance professionals on a lot of case opportunities as it relates to life insurance planning. So a lot of that work tends to have an estate planning component to that. So happy to answer any questions that you might have about, if you have questions about estate planning or, financial planning in general, or, what types of documents do we recommend, those kind of things. I don't know if people want to type questions in the chat bar too. We can also address some questions there, but really happy to take this time to answer any questions that you think you might be interested in hearing more about.
Did you hear all of that, Karen?
Yes. Am I the only one on here? Or
I don't know.
Yes.
I can't really
There's
tell.
people having difficulty, so everyone can hear us. There's a lot of people on audio. Hi, Francis. Welcome.
Hello.
We can have 9 people on video, but there's more people that can actually hear us that we can't see. So they're going to be asking us questions. So as soon as I see a question, I'll ask it. Okay,
Wonderful.
we have Chris. Hi, Chris. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Very well, thank you. Welcome to the group. Where are you calling in from?
California.
You're in California. Okay.
What's that?
Karen, how about you? Where are you calling in from?
I'm calling in from Seal Beach, California.
Okay, very good. And Francis, welcome.
Long Beach, California.
Oh, okay. So we're all California except Caroline. Caroline's in sunny Florida.
Yes. Oh, cool. Where in Florida, Caroline?
So I am in about halfway between Fort Myers and Sarasota, a town called Englewood, or if you know Venice, Florida. Although I have to admit, I'm actually from Boston, and because with COVID, we've been working remote, and so I had the opportunity for the first time, but hopefully not the last time, to escape winter, and so we rented a place down in Florida for the winter, which has been really nice to get to snowbird at, as a result of that. So silver lining, I think, to the pandemic.
Really?
Yeah. So it's been good though.
Good. Yeah. Florida, mild climate. My dad was stationed, I was an Air Force brat. So we were over on the other side of Florida. We were near Cocoa Beach.
Oh, great. Okay. I know that area a little bit.
And I had friends who lived near
there.
Palm Beach at one
Sure.
point. Yeah. On the other side.
Yes. Great. Well, anywhere that there's sun shining every day is, good in my book, because you guys get that a lot in California. But usually this time of year, it's dark and doom and gloom where I live. So, I'm trying to appreciate every moment, I think, of this sort of unique opportunity.
So, Chris, where are you? You're from? Chris, you're from where?
California.
But the Valley.
Originally, I grew up in New Jersey, but I've been in California for many, many years. So.
I remember the doom and gloom, Caroline. My dad was stationed in Presque Isle, Maine, which is north of Quebec. We would go to Bangor to get our clothes.
Wow.
An hour's drive
so that's
south.
been very cool.
Yeah.
Sure.
Okay,
sure.
so just to let you know, Katherine is another panelist. She can hear us, but we can't hear her. So if you want to ask any questions, feel free to do so. So Katherine she runs her own insurance services company. She's a licensed insurance agent, living benefits expert, and tax-free retirement specialist. So if you want to ask her any questions, let me know and I can type them in because she can hear us. And I'm a medical broker, so if you have any questions on Medicare, feel free to ask me. So let's see if anyone has any questions.
I'm actually in a weird position. Can I say something?
Yes, of course, please.
Yes. I'm in a weird position right now. I'm not a weird. My husband died in July of last year.
Sorry.
Sorry.
And I start my Social Security because I'm on a survivor's benefit now. So I start my own Social Security in May
Right.
on that one. So I'm just kind of, how soon do I have to contact them to make an appointment? Anybody know? Because I'm on Medicare. The Medicare started.
Okay.
I was paying quarterly, and then when they made me survivor's benefits, they added the Medicare to that with Social Security because I was not taking. I was waiting until I was 70. So I turned 70 in May.
Oh, wow. You don't look it at all.
Well, thank you. In the genes.
Good genes.
That's a good question. It's not something that I have a ton of experience with. I don't know if Katherine, you do, or Iram, but
I want to go back to a different screen.
Are you asking when do you have to file for Social Security? Is that what you're asking?
Well, how soon in advance do I need to contact them?
I'm 69, so I think
Me
it's
too.
3 months.
Is it
3 months in advance.
Okay.
Mhm.
Because she said when I talked to them back in July when I changed this over and got survivor's benefit, she said it should be relatively simple now to make the change because I'm already in their system. So
Mhm.
I
Yeah.
guess I can
looking at the
contact
Social
somebody now.
Security website right now, they recommend exactly 3 to 4 months. 3 to 4 months is what they say
Okay.
on the website.
Well, I will
there.
add that to my to-do list.
There's some more information and FAQs, but
Sorry, I'm not used to this, and I'm trying to look at the questions that are coming in, but
are we getting questions coming in? I can't see that.
well, Catherine's trying to come on, but I'm
Should I go off?
I don't think that makes a difference because we can have up to
No, I don't.
4 people on video and up to 500 on audio. So, but they're just having
One of the things I discovered when I was in networking, they couldn't hear me on the other side. There's 2 options. You have to do your internal one or you use the other outside external one. And I had to change it to my internal voice thing because that wasn't the pop-up.
So
hopefully they heard you.
Huh?
Hopefully they
Catherine
heard you.
in the chat that you have more than 3 options, that the Social Security office will offer you 3 options, but you actually have more than that. And that's what Catherine is saying in the chat. Is she the person you're waiting for, Catherine?
Yes.
Yeah, she's in the chat.
We'll tell you only have 3 options. Oh, that's Katherine Wickman, Zacharias?
Yes.
Zacharias? Okay.
Yes. So I'm not an expert on Social Security per se, more the Medicare side. Social Security is more to do with income. Medicare is more to do with insurance. So, I can try to find you an expert on Social Security, but I don't want to give you the wrong information.
I was talking Medicare. I was talking to one of my girlfriends, and her husband turned 65 in November and hasn't contacted Medicare yet because he's currently on her insurance, medical insurance.
Okay.
And I said, but I think he still has to contact Medicare.
No, he doesn't have to do anything as long as he is going to stay on her insurance coverage through her employer. He doesn't need to do anything. He'll get Medicare Part A automatically. We all do when we turn 65.
I lost audio.
Will they know that?
They'll receive it. Most people don't know because there's not a whole load of literature, that comes around. So let's see. Okay. Era, I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing your name correctly. We are taking questions. I was hoping that Katherine could come on, but she's having some technical difficulties. So if you have some questions, feel free to post them here because I can see all the questions that are coming in. I can't hear anybody else, but I can see the questions. So if you have a question, feel free to post it. And I'm sure we have some experts here that can help answer the questions. So we have You can ask any questions about insurance, living benefits, tax-free retirement information, estate planning, tax planning, Medicare, anything to do with financial literacy. That's what we're here for.
But when we talk to the chat, you're watching the chat to see if you can get questions, but that could be for any of the workshops, right? Any of the session?
Yeah, that's where I'm a little confused because that's what I see too, but it just looks like I don't see actual questions. It just looks like people posting about, or do you have a different view?
I think each session has its own chat, but I could be wrong.
Okay.
And I'm scared to go out of this session in case I can't get back.
I know.
Okay, Katherine is confirming that this chat is only for our session, so I was right. Okay.
I have a question. It's regarding Medicare and a supplemental. So recently I called Medicare to ask if a certain procedure would be covered because it's been less than a year. And I got somebody who I felt wasn't really knowledgeable. You know, he wasn't familiar with the terms. So then I called the supplemental insurance, and they said that if Medicare does not pay something, I mean, you could be eligible for that procedure, but if it's not within a certain amount of time and they decide for whatever reason they won't pay it, they said the supplemental usually denies it. And they said, well, what's the purpose of the supplemental then? I mean, I thought they were supposed to pick up what Medicare did not.
They are, yeah. I haven't heard that before because Medicare will typically cover 80% of hospital and medical coverage, and then your insurance, your supplemental insurance, should cover that remaining 20%. Plus, they usually have additional benefits too, like vision and dental, etc. Okay, we have a question here. Is Part A hospital coverage? Yes, it is. So Medicare Part A is 80% of hospital coverage. And then whichever insurance carrier you have will cover the remaining 80%, Francis.
So if my friend's husband ends up in the hospital, he would need to have a Medicare card.
Sorry, say that again? You cut out there.
If my friend's husband, who's on her insurance, ends up in the hospital, are they assuming that her insurance will cover everything, or will Medicare cover part of that?
Medicare will cover 80% of the hospital coverage, and then her supplemental will cover the remaining.
Then he needs to have a Social Security card, right? I mean, excuse me, a Medicare card.
A Medicare card, yes.
So he would have to contact Medicare and sign up with Medicare to get the card to be able to.
Because Medicare Part A comes to everybody automatically. So if he doesn't have that, he can use his Social Security number as well.
Okay. So in the hospital, because they're going to ask for the card.
Right. So if he doesn't have it, he can just contact Social Security just to get the Medicare number. And if not, I can help too. I can get that for you as well. So if you want to reach out to me, I can give you my phone number, and I'll be happy to help get his if he doesn't have it.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome. Let's see. Bob Duffy has a comment here. Can I offer an idea for discussion? If yes, could you all share your ideas of best practices and tools for helping young graduates on how to get a path to financial success, budgeting, emergency funds, Roth IRA, saving for a house, investing in real estate, etc. Also apps that help with cash flow tracking. That's wonderful. Thank you, Bob. I appreciate that. Caroline, did you want to take that one?
Yeah, sure. I'm happy to take that first. I think it's a great question and good to kick that off for discussion purposes. So I think, for someone that's newly entering the workforce, coming out of college, they likely are facing some different challenges. They may have student loans that they're considering. You may have to start repaying some money on those student loans. My biggest advice, I would say, for those that are just entering the workforce and may be experiencing some of these things for the first time, like questions around funding their qualified plans. I think that's really important to be encouraging, young recent graduates to be contributing to those employer those employer-funded qualified plans, so their 401k, and most employers will offer, and many employers also will offer a match on those contributions that are made to 401k plans as well. So, you're kind of leaving money on the table if you don't take advantage of that. So I think that even when someone who is younger and more junior in their career and have different financial priorities that they're competing with, it's really important that I think you have that old adage of sort of paying yourself first and make sure that you prioritize funding those retirement plans as sort of the first and most important step. Beyond that too, I think it's sort of basics too on looking at, maybe starting to invest, whether it's through ETFs or mutual funds. There's different ways that you can start to dabble and get involved with, different types of financial planning at an early age. And I think the earlier you do it, the better too. So it's, we sit and look at compound interest and things like that. And what does that look like where your dollar stays? What does that look like in the future? So it is really important that you start those things at an early age, and you can always scale it up as you go along in your career. Student loans too, I think that's a big item, and I can't say that I'm an expert on that. I can only say from my own personal experience with law school loans that I tackled in my 20s, and I think that sometimes the repayment obligations under those loans can be complicated. So reaching out to somebody that has expertise in that is also important if you do have student loans, that you can talk to a financial professional who they dedicate their time to that, because you can run into challenges. So if you have multiple loans that are a combination of private and public loans with interest charged at varying rates, you should explore, does it make sense to refinance those loans and consolidate it into one repayment? Things like there's certain nuances with some of the repayment plans that are offered, government repayment plans, that if you don't talk to somebody early on, you could run into trouble and disqualify yourself later on from some of those things. So definitely reaching out to somebody that knows a little bit about financial planning, specifically as it relates to college loans, is something I'd recommend.
Fantastic. And compound interest is a beautiful thing.
I have a question about 529s, the educational fund.
Sure.
Can I donate to someone else's 529? And what are there limits to how much I can donate per year, or for myself?
Yes.
And how much per fund?
Yeah, so I would have to pull up the limits. But you can absolutely contribute to somebody else's 529 plan. That's typically not going to be an issue. You can contribute. I think the amount, if I want to say it's correctly, I may have to look this up, but you can contribute typically up to the annual exclusion amount to a 529 plan. And there's an ability to front load that too. So if you wanted to make substantial gifts, you could basically contribute. So each person has the ability to make gifts to other individuals each year without any gift tax issues or anything, up to $15,000 per person. So you can actually contribute up to that $15,000 to the 529 plan. And if you really wanted to take advantage of that under federal law, there's the ability to front load those contributions, where you can contribute, I believe it's 5 years upfront for annual exclusion gifts too. So that would allow you to contribute, say, $75,000. So it's a pretty substantial amount that you can contribute each year.
So per person, so I can contribute $15,000 to a fund, to each fund, or $15,000 is what I can contribute without a tax?
No, you could contribute more in theory. It's just that if you want to keep it under that gift tax limitation, then that's that $15,000 that you have to be.
$15,000 for me totally, or $15,000 per gift?
Per account. It would be so if you had children, grandchildren, friends, whatever the case might be that you wanted to contribute, you could contribute per person.
You. Per account person. Okay, thank you.
Catherine has actually just posted something. I don't know if you guys can see it, but she's mentioned $1 million baby fund
using life insurance,
which is apparently better than a 529. There's no rules, and it's using life insurance. So, Katherine, did you want to say a little bit more about that? No limits on using life insurance for college saving. But that does sound better than a 529. Can you
Life
all
insurance
see?
for whom? I mean, you're creating life insurance plans for nieces or nephews or grandchildren?
Katherine, if you can hear, can you answer that question?
She has to type.
I can comment on that.
Go ahead.
So
Caroline.
basically how life insurance contributes. Yeah, sure. So life insurance contributions to college funding. So it all has to do with how life insurance is taxed. So permanent life insurance, like whole life or universal life insurance, there's cash value buildup inside of those policies that can be taken out in. So it's not like typical assets where you pay tax on the gains up front. You actually get to take out, withdraw cash from those policies to help pay, supplement income in any way. So how those strategies typically work is that if, you're, say, a young parent where you're thinking about college funding, you could purchase a life insurance policy on your own life, be the owner and the beneficiary of the policy. So you would get the death benefit protection if something were to happen to you. So if you were to pass away, then the death benefit could obviously be helped to use to meet different planning objectives. But assuming that you survive and live a long life, the policy is just going to continue to grow cash value over time. So you can structure it so that when the child is of college age, you can start taking money out of the life insurance policy, income tax free, to help pay for that.
Katherine just posted
Katherine,
something good too. She's written, life insurance policies don't cause a decline for FAFSA, whereas 529s do. So good point, Katherine. Thank you for that.
What's FAFSA?
FAFSA is the financial aid application
right.
for kids that are going to college.
Yeah, okay.
Okay.
Yep, and that is correct.
I know, because I have a kid about to go to college, so he's completing his FAFSA right now. It's such a long application.
I don't want to go into that. Because the life insurance stays with the individual making the donation then. And they're the ones who have to make sure that the money goes at a certain time. So you time it to the age of the child.
Sure, exactly. You could try to time it to the age of the child. And then, unlike a 529 plan, that the funds in the 529 plan have to be used for qualified education expenses. A life insurance policy, the cash value, it's one of those things where it's there if you need it or want it, but you certainly don't have to tap into that pool of money. So if if your situation changes where you no longer need, you no longer want to use that to pay for college, or maybe plans have changed and now the child's not going to college, it's not like there's any type of distributions that are required. It's purely discretionary.
But the principal still stays with the insurance company.
No, so the how permanent life insurance works is you're the owner and the beneficiary of the policy. It basically has two components. So there's a death benefit, and then there's also cash value buildup with inside that. So you own it and you pay premiums each year to have, to own that policy, essentially.
Okay.
I keep sending Katherine invitations, but there's a lot of technical problems here. Caroline, do you know anything about recruiting a financial advisor and how that might be beneficial for a lot of women?
Yeah, that's a really good question. So, there's certainly some websites out there and places that you can go find an advisor. Let me just pull. There's a website. I know for the same thing for estate planning attorneys. So the National Association of Accredited Estate Planning Attorneys. That's a really good resource for finding a local advisor. But I think. There's some good resources out there. I don't know off the top of my head like a good one for financial planning, but there's some different questions and things that we could ask too. For example, is the person a certified financial planner? Things that we could ask. Oh, it looks like we have Katherine.
It looks like it, but it's frozen. I don't know why.
We can see you though. Oh,
it's gone.
I can go out, guys, so that somebody else, so she can come in. I have a feeling maybe there's just an overload.
Well, because it should be able to hold up to 9 people, so.
They've only have 4 people right now.
I know. Frustrating.
Yeah, I can't really tell. So is this session over then and the next one has begun? I'm kind of
because it's already 10:30. We were supposed to have a 10-minute break, but I guess we went over.
Okay. Yeah.
10-minute break
Hi,
was
Bob.
10:50, right? I thought the 10-minute break was at 10.
Hi, Bob.
I'll figure it out.
10:50 or
Bob, can you hear us?
Yes. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. Can everyone else hear Bob?
Yes.
Okay, good.
Mhm.
Just in time for the end of the session, probably.
Well, it goes to 11:10, the first one. 10:55 to 11:10.
I think it's 10:40. I think we're supposed to be ending right now.
Yeah, 30 minutes.
Okay.
No, the networking ends at 10:40.
oh,
Bob, you're welcome to stay with us. Ladies, if you want to hang around, that's fine. I don't know if anyone else is about to join. Caroline, did you want to take a break?
If you use the calendar at the top,
no, I'm
if
good.
you
I'm
use the
good.
schedule at the top next to the time left, it's showing 11:10.
Yeah, we're into the next session because it's on the schedule. It says the second session started at 10:40 and goes till 11:10. So we're like extending this session.
Okay, so that schedule up there is wrong then. Okay.
Okay. Bye, ladies.
Bye.
Thank you for joining us. Sorry for all the technical problems.
Thank you so much
Thank
for
you.
joining.
So we leave?
It's a strange view because I really can't see. So I obviously see the 3 of you on the screen, but I can't tell if other people are in the session.
I'm going to pop
it says
over to one of the
100
other
people,
sessions, but
I don't think-
I've been on the whole time, so thanks.
Okay,
Thanks for all your
Bob.
input.
And thank you for your
Okay,
input,
thank you.
Bob.
Oh,
Take
sure.
care.
Um,
Good luck.
okay.
So we leave,
Bye.
right?
How frustrating. I don't even use Zoom. This is my first kind of video interaction.
This is
Well,
more.
a lot of my clients are all my clients are over 65 and some of them don't even have a computer.
Oh.
Some of them still have the landlines and the old flip phones.
Oh my goodness. They have been really out of it this whole year then.
Oh yes, so isolating.
I can't find, I had saved I'm trying to find this is so frustrating. Here's the schedule they sent us this morning, and I can't print it off because it says it's corrupted on my printer. So it won't allow me to print it off. So I have to keep going into the PDF here.
I
Okay,
didn't
yeah,
even bother
1040
printing
is
it. I just have it on my phone.
So 1040 is the next one. Okay. You're right.
Oh, I guess that's now.
That's now. I'm leaving. Bye.
Okay.
I think I'm
Thank you
leaving.
for being with us.
Leave.
10:45. Okay. Hi, Susan. I don't know if you can hear us. And she's saying, don't leave yet, but she already left.
Oh, no. So can you see who's in our session then or no?
Well, I can't actually for video, it's just you and
I
me
feel like we've
right
had
now.
Katherine for a minute. There's nobody
I
else
think
here?
Katherine might still be on. I can't tell unless she actually posts a message. Susan can hear us. Yay, hi Susan. We've made it on here, but we're having a lot of technical issues. Hi Jared.
Hello.
Can you hear us?
Hi, Jared.
It's like a
How are you?
seance, as Katherine was saying. It's like a seance. Can you hear us? Can you see us?
I'm just popping
Exactly.
into some of these groups just to make sure
I like that.
you guys are doing okay. I heard a question if you could see who's in there. If you go to the sessions tab and people, you could see who's viewing.
Yeah.
But it sounds like this room, so I'll leave you all
Can
to
you
it.
guys hear me finally?
Okay. Catherine, hi, welcome.
Can you hear me?
Yes, yes, we can.
Oh my gosh, now that the whole session's over, finally I'm on. Holy smokes, that was ridiculous.
No, that's
Oh,
okay,
good.
because we're on to the next session.
Yeah, that could have gone more smoothly, but that's all right. Technical
And
issues.
Susan,
Thank you,
God
Caroline,
bless her, is
for
reminding us to stay focused and flexible.
No problem.
How are you, Catherine?
Thank you for answering for me, Carly.
Oh, no problem. No problem at all. Hopefully I got what you wanted to cover. But yeah, that's a good point about the FAFSA. Is it what's the other, I'm blanking. Isn't there another form for the other form for private colleges?
That I'm not sure. I actually refer them to a college planning specialist for that. So yeah, I'm not sure. So, but you're right. There probably is one for private schools, I'm sure.
Catherine, you mentioned you run a program called Money 101.
Mm-hmm.
Can you hear me? Okay, great.
Can you hear me?
Because I can't really tell how many people can hear us, I think it would be great for you to just start with that, and then as people come in, I'll try to invite them in. And if not, then hopefully they can listen in and just post some questions. So would that be okay with you? Could you do that?
Can you hear me? I feel like you guys can't hear me.
There's a delay, but
yes, yep.
Yeah.
There's a little bit of a lag.
Okay, yeah, that's so weird, and I apologize. Of course, the gardener now is outside with the blower, so that's why I'm having a hard time hearing you guys.
Hear you, so that's good.
Okay, good.
Okay.
Yeah, I just was gonna, I wasn't gonna do my whole talk, but I was obviously, since we found out that we weren't doing talks in the last week, but I was just gonna mention my 3 tips that I told you when we were talking yesterday: the compound interest, time value of money, and tax-free vehicles. And I did put in there, I don't know if people saw it, I tried to write down the names of the ladies that were asking you all questions so that I could reach out to them privately and give them my handout. But my handouts that I sent to Susan and Cheryl have that on there as well, so they can grab those at their leisure.
Great. Oh, so apparently I just saw that Evelyn. So 3 minutes left in the first breakout, I guess I think that ended at 10:45, and we're taking a 5-minute break.
I don't even see that.
And then the next one starts at 10.
It's so weird because I can hear you two, but I feel like you can't hear me.
Oh, we can hear you. There's just a delay.
I can hear you. It's just you're on a big lag. Yeah, it's delayed.
But go ahead. Start talking about the 3 pointers for Money 101.
Oh, are we on right now?
Oh, you're on.
Listen to me. I'm like, are we on?
I don't know. I think we're on it.
You're on, girl.
At 1:50.
Okay. So my 3 tips. My 3 tips that I was going to share today are what we call in our Money 101 weekly now Zoom events that we used to host live. My 3 tips are what we consider the 3 principles of money. And they are the power of compound interest, time value of money, and taxes, tax-deferred vehicles versus tax-free vehicles. The first one, compound interest, Albert Einstein likes to call compound interest the eighth wonder of the world. I love that he said that. I wish I could have met him. But for those of you that don't know how compound interest works, when you put money into an account, obviously it earns interest. And with compound interest, the interest that you earn also earns interest. So it's actually save for your future, or for that, in any case, for whatever you have in mind to save for. And one of the things that we teach people is the rule of 72. If you're ever curious about how your accounts are doing, no matter what kind of account you're putting money away, there's a rule out there called the rule of 72. And what you do, for those of you that have never heard it before, is you take the interest rate that you're currently earning on your account and you divide that into 72. And it's an easy way. It tells you in how many years it will take for your money to double. So sadly, in the environment that we're in right now, I know Caroline will giggle at this, or maybe not giggle because it's so horrifying. The bank rates right now, I think my credit union, last year we were telling people 1%, and now my credit union just sent me something that said we've gone up from 0.25%, now we're giving you 0.5%.
Wow.
So just to make the math easy, I always use 1%. I know it's so ridiculous. I always use 1% as the example just to make the math easy. So if you take 1%, if that's what you're earning on your savings account or your CD or whatever account you're looking at, and you divide it into 72, well, that means your money is going to double in 72 years. Well, we always ask, how many 2-year sections do you have in your lifetime? We all pray that we're going to live at least one time to 72 years. So we always say stay away from any type of financial vehicle that is only giving you 1%. You want to look for vehicles that are offering more than that, as for obvious reasons. The second tip is the time value of money. This is a great tip that we love to tell people or show people. The time value of money, we ask people, can you save $5 a day? And most people say yes, they can save $5 a day, especially when it comes to Starbucks. Can you give up one Starbucks a day? I hate to use Starbucks because so many of us in the field use them as the example, but it's the easiest one. So $5 a day times 30 days, because most people look at their money in months, not in days, is $150 a month. So if you can save $150 a month over a 40-year period, and you can earn between, say, 6 and 8%, which is it's pretty conservative, although right now, considering the 1% I was just telling you about, it seems like it's far-fetched, but it's not far-fetched if you're looking at an account over time. If you're looking at it over any 20 or 40-year period, you should be able to earn that. So if you look at that, let's say, for example, for the 8%, you'll have $500,000 in your account 40 years from now. So that's another great math problem, if you will, like the rule of 72, to help you, figure out how much money you're going to have in the future. I know that's a question that we get a lot by our clients. I'm sure Carly does too. If I'm putting money away in this account, what am I going to have when I turn age 65 or 70 or whatever the case may be? So that's an easy way to figure that out. And then my last tip is really quick, because I want to give Carly time. And it's also in my handout. I gave a handout on the different types of vehicles, financial vehicles out there, and I showed the ones that are tax deferred, the ones that are after tax, and the ones that are tax free. So we always try to, that's why I call myself a safe money expert, because back in the day I used to sell mutual funds and stocks and bonds. Actually, when I was at John Hancock 28 years ago, that was what I did. And then I went through stock market crashes and decided that I did not want to do that for my clients anymore. I wanted to make sure I was putting them in vehicles that didn't, make me stay up at night. So
Right, protect.
we always try to encourage our clients to look at vehicles that are tax deferred or tax free. And that's it. Those are my 3 tips. Thank you for letting me
Thank
share.
you, Catherine. Appreciate that. I just posted if anyone has any questions. I'm not even sure if anybody's even on here. I think it's literally just the 3 of
I
us.
didn't realize you were a former John Hancock. But no, either way, I think that's great. And the tax, the thing when you're thinking about, planning for your retirement is, it's not so, to your point, I think, Catherine, is you obviously can't have kind of your eggs all in one basket, but I think it's creating a strategy or a mix of assets so that depending on what your needs are in a given moment or a given year, you have flexibility for your plan. So, for example, if you have a tax-free bucket of money that you can pull money out of, particularly in a time, for example, when, it's a down year, for example. So if the markets are down, having the ability to tap into money, like, for example, we talked about this in the last session, cash value in a life insurance policy that can be accessed tax-free. And that way you're leaving your taxable accounts kind of where they are so that you're not depleting those further. And, there's a lot of studies about that too, where if you retire in a down market, it can be virtually impossible to ever make up those losses later on, all other things being considered. So I think those are really good points.
Absolutely, yes. Since it's literally just the 3 of us and no one's posting any questions, if you want to visit some of the other sessions and then come back, to see if anyone has joined us, do you want to do that?
No, there's 6 people. There's 6 people watching us.
I don't see.
It looks like so my view shows the people, but it says 100. So I don't think I don't think everybody at the conference is in here, but you can see that there's 6 people on our thing.
I don't know how you.
Yeah, I see on the top.
Oh yeah.
There's 3 of us. There's 3 of us on video, but.
Okay.
Oh, okay.
Okay. Well, I'll share some of my advice too. So, like I said, I currently work as an attorney for an insurance company, John Hancock, like we said. But my background really is estate planning. And, I worked for a number of years with clients on estate planning, especially, really focusing in on what does that look like? And, tax planning is a big part of estate planning. And that was a big component of what I did in those roles and what I currently do. But, my advice, I think, for all of you is, estate planning really is a lot more than tax planning. It's this idea of thinking about what is it that, how do you want to leave your legacy to your loved ones? So, there's a lot of components and things that go into an estate plan. It's really regardless of the size of your estate. It's determining who receives those assets you want, but not just who receives them, but also how and when those assets will be distributed. That's a big piece of it, the puzzle as well. So, do you want your children to receive assets today while you're alive and watching them enjoy that? Or is it something that you want to pass on in trust where there's, some rules around how that's going to be distributed and when? There's disability considerations. So, what would happen if you were to become disabled? Who would you want to care for you and make medical decisions on your behalf? How would that impact the amount that you'll be able to leave on to your loved ones and your children? If you have minor children or other dependents, an estate plan is really critical to help ensure that those individuals are cared for. And then, a big piece of this too is which I think is actually really interesting. And a lot of the estate planning attorneys that I still work very closely with, we talk about this idea of leaving what's called a legacy letter. Thinking about your legacy plan, and there's your estate plan, which is all these legal documents, and they're really, really important to have. So making sure that you have a will, maybe a revocable trust, a power of attorney. So that there's the estate planning documents, but then there's also this idea of using your estate plan as a way to give guidance to loved ones on how to carry out affairs and wishes and help to limit family conflicts after you're gone and pass on a really meaningful legacy. So, my 2 words of advice, I guess, would be 1, if you don't already have a basic estate plan, so those legal documents, it's really a good idea to make sure you're working with an attorney to help get those in place. And then 2, if you revisit these things often. So if you put a will in place 20 years ago, it might not be what you want it to be today. So revisit those and revisit them regularly. Good rule of thumb is anytime you've had a major life event, so a marriage, a birth of a child, divorce, sadly death. So any of those types of major life events would be good times to get back in front of the attorney. But certainly every probably 5 to 7 years beyond that is also not a bad thing to just take a look at those documents and dust them off. But then also thinking about things like legacy letters, which aren't legal documents. It's not something that you have to get an attorney to draft. It could be something as simple as thinking about maybe it's some family history that you want to share that's important, and documenting that, or history about some assets, or why you've divided your estate how you have. So those types of things. And there's some good resources out there too that talk about how to craft that, but that could be just a document that you keep in your files as well. And the nice thing about that too is it opens the conversation where if you want to have that conversation with your family today, you can do that. But if not, it's there for after you're gone. Just would be a good idea to make sure that someone, maybe it's the executor or personal representative for your estate, knows that it exists, so that when the time comes, they can access that. So those are just some ideas that I had on basic.
Carol, I had a quick question about the difference between a will and a living trust. Isn't it true that even if you have a will, your loved ones would still have to go through probate, but with a living trust, that's not the case?
Yes, that's absolutely correct. And, some people think, do I need to have a will? Do I need to have a revocable trust? So a will is really the fundamental document that I would argue that every single person should have a basic will. And a will provides for the transfer of your assets. But to your point, Iram, it does go through probate. A revocable trust, on the other hand, it's a living and breathing document like a will. So you can execute the trust during life or at death, depending, but it's something that you have full control over today. So it's not like you're transferring assets out of your estate. But basically the trust allows a trustee, so a fiduciary, to hold property on behalf of beneficiaries. And the real benefits there's basically 3 benefits of a revocable trust. The first is that it's a private document. So wills are matters of public record, which means that if you have a will, when you die, it goes through probate and is basically public record. So anybody could theoretically see that. A revocable trust is a private document. The second big piece of that is it does avoid probate. And what I say by probate, so probate is a complicated process, and it can be very time consuming, and it can also be really expensive. I was actually reading up on this, and I'm not a California attorney, but looking at the California laws, you guys in California actually have a kind of unusual system where probate lawyers are compensated on a percentage of the gross value of their estates, of the estate assets that go through probate. So if you have, and it's graded. So if you have, say, I think it's, and I just pulled it up, it's 100,000. So if your estate is $100,000, the fee for that is 4% off the top of $100,000, and then it decreases as the estate gets bigger. But you could be paying quite a lot of money to attorneys to probate an estate. So if you have, for example, a $200,000 gross estate, the fee on that would be $7,000. So by having a revocable trust, you can avoid that. And then there's some other benefits to the trust too, is that the terms of the trust can be used to help meet different objectives. So for example, if you want to have certain distribution powers where you want your loved ones to have controlled distributions, for example. So if you don't want your child to receive every single dollar that you're leaving them outright, you can use the revocable trust to control distributions. Maybe they're just getting income from trust assets, or perhaps they're getting distributions at set ages like 30, 35, 40. It's pretty common. And so that way you can help to kind of protect beneficiaries from themselves. But there's a lot of different benefits to trust planning. Tax planning is a component of that, but it's certainly not the main reason why we recommend revocable trusts in most cases.
Thank you so much, Caroline. Catherine,
You're so right, Caroline, about California. California is so crazy. I actually know attorneys, not closely, but my close estate planning attorneys here have told me stories of attorneys here that solely do just that. They go just after the probate. They don't even have their own practice, or just to make that commission, which is mind-boggling. And I only learned that maybe 5 years ago. I didn't even know that was a thing here in California.
Wow.
Yeah, and it can be detrimental too, because it's not only really expensive, but and this comes up, I think, too, in the case, especially with like minor children, for example. So if you have a will in any state, but let's use California as the example. So if you have a minor child, you have a will, and if you were to pass away, then what basically happens is now that will has to get probated. So you're hiring the attorney to help with the filing and all that, and it's going to take a really long time, though. So a guardian might have to be appointed, or will have to be appointed for the child. Distributing those assets, amongst all the state beneficiaries, it can take a long time. And so when there's immediate income needs to support a family, you want to have access to that money right away. You don't want it to be tied up. So, that's where I think having trusts can be a good part of the plan in some cases.
That's my biggest pet peeve with prospects and clients. I've actually made girlfriends who are clients of mine who are single moms with young kids. I've actually put it down in front of me because they didn't have a will or a trust. They have no clue that the state of California is going to appoint a guardian for you. They're like, well, they can't do that. He or she will just go to my sister or my aunt. And I'm like, no, they will not. I said, they will choose who your child goes to. And being a foster kid here in California, I know it's horrifying. I mean, at least once every 2 weeks, I meet somebody or a girlfriend, tells me just in conversation that they don't have a will and they have young kids. I'm like, I freak out. I'm like, I'm not even a mom, and I freak out because I'm like, if something happens to you, your child, you have no clue while your assets are in probate. It's mind-boggling.
Horrific.
Really, yeah, exactly.
It's frightening.
Do you have any questions from the people in the room?
I have a question for you.
Yeah.
I didn't know you were an attorney until you just said that. I thought you were a financial planner with John Hancock. Maybe somebody in the audience has the same question, but what happens to somebody's estate? Let's say they have a will but not a trust, but they don't own anything. They don't own a house. They don't own their car. They're living in a rental. So literally they have zero assets, like no accounts, no house, no car. What happens when that goes through probate if the person doesn't have a trust?
I mean, if somebody is truly, and I think that would probably be a rare situation where, you have literally no assets, but, in that sort of situation, I suppose maybe you wouldn't need to go through trust planning. I don't think, having a basic will would probably be sufficient, or if you were to pass away without a will, it's called, intestate. So the state laws would determine where any residual assets would be divided amongst family members, usually, spouse, lineal descendants, things like that. But that would be a pretty rare situation, to have no assets whatsoever. But there are things that do come out of the estate. So it's, thinking about things like you still would want to have a will so that you have an executor appointed, because there's the division of assets, but there's also things like funeral costs, just different administrative things that when someone passes away that you have to take care of. So it's still important that I think everybody have that will. And then also too, there's other documents that are important. So the will and revocable trust is important for legacy planning, but there's two documents that are really important to have while you're alive, and those are a healthcare proxy or living will, or a durable power of attorney. So a healthcare proxy is related to, it's a document that spells out what types of medical treatments or interventions you do or don't want to receive, and anybody can you can create this document and you can appoint someone who makes those healthcare decisions for you. So that's really important for, if you were to become incapacitated and you knew there were certain types of treatments you would absolutely not want to receive or would want to receive, it can spell that out, with a HIPAA disclosure, allow this person to make those decisions for you. A power of attorney is, somewhat similar in terms of incapacity planning, but it's basically, it's related to financial decisions. So it could be a different person than the healthcare proxy, but the durable power of attorney appoints a person to make financial decisions on your behalf. And it basically lets them step into your shoes if you're incapacitated to do things like, write bill, pay bills and access money from your bank account and that sort of thing. And that's really important too. So if something were to become where you were to become incapacitated, if you don't have those documents, then it can, again, anytime you can avoid going to the court, that's strongly advisable. And, I think that having those documents is really important to have, make sure that you have everything done the way you want it done, in terms of your related to your affairs, but also, you're appointing trusted people to do that, to have those roles. So it's really important to have those things.
Wonderful. Thank you so much.
Agreed.
Katherine, you mentioned something here about disability insurance. Can you talk more on that?
When Carly mentioned, I think Carly just mentioned disability insurance when she was giving her tips, and I agree with her. That's one of the most important things that people overlook. People do think of life insurance and health insurance, but they don't think of disability insurance. And to me, that's the most important power that you have, is the ability to make money, right? The ability to go out and work. So if something happens to you and you're disabled and you're not able to work or to bring in income, well, then how are you going to, at that point, then you can't even pay for your life insurance, your health insurance, your rent, your car. So yeah, it's one of those things that I believe wholeheartedly in. I do tell my clients about it. It's not my forte. I work with 2 other agents here in California on those cases if it does come up. But it's very common that it's overlooked, and I'm glad Carly brought that up, because nobody thinks about it. They think about life and health insurance, but one of my concerns is, well, what if you don't even have income coming in, to pay for those? COVID was a prime example. People either got sick or they lost their job, and they had to drop their, health insurance and whatnot. So that's a major concern for me is people that don't have disability insurance. It seems as though the higher end earners, it seems as though doctors and, surgeons, obviously they're very well aware of it. They know that if something happens to their hands, they can't do their work. So they're very good at getting disability insurance. But for the rest of us, it's something that, most don't think about. So I just put in the chat, I was just rah-rahing Carly for bringing that up, because I agree with her. People do need that. They don't think about, their ability to actually earn an income and how that's going to affect the rest of their financial world.
Absolutely, especially if they're the breadwinner.
Yeah, it's not important.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you've got me thinking now. Maybe it's something I should get.
So Carly, I hate to go back on this, but just to elaborate, since nobody's asking questions in the chat, I'm watching and nobody's there, but
how do you see the chat?
About that person that doesn't have assets? They do have a will. I'm actually asking for a client. They do have a will that just not go through probate then, because anything?
No, it would still, well, that's a good question. I guess I can't say, in my experience, I've never had a client that had absolutely no assets, where they're just truly, their estate is $0. Right. I just think that would be pretty rare, but, you still have to, I would think you would still go through probate, but it's actually a good question. I may have to follow up on that, because, I would imagine that you would still, yeah.
Okay, I could ask my estate planning attorneys too. I was just curious, and I didn't know if somebody else on the call had that same question. You're right; it's very rare.
Does the client have debt?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah,
I guess I would say, I
filed
mean,
for bankruptcy.
so they do have
Filed
that.
for bankruptcy due to five cancer diagnosis.
Oh wow, that's very
Yeah.
sad. Yeah, so when the client has debt, then it does become a little bit more complicated. So if the client has, depending on who their heirs are, so if they have a surviving spouse or if they have heirs, like children, for example, the debt basically becomes part of their estate. And so you can have creditors going after the estate to try to collect that debt. And, whether who can make a claim under that really depends on state law. But there's certain types of creditors that are what we call super creditors, which is kind of a funny term, I think. But a super creditor is like the IRS, for example. So if you were to die and had a substantial tax debt, the IRS can actually, in most cases, come after they could potentially come after your beneficiaries for that. So there's some types of situations where we could see that happen.
Even if the beneficiary,
but again, you'd want to
even if the beneficiary is not the spouse. I thought the debt was only if like it's a married couple, then yeah, your spouse is required to pay your debt. But I thought like kids or other members were immune from that.
I could confirm that, but I thought that it's something like I was just looking at this recently with it depended on. I'm trying to remember now. I think I would have to look that up, but I'm pretty sure that in some cases, if you have something like the IRS, I think if you have outstanding tax debt, it's possible that they could go after other beneficiaries, but it sort of depends. So okay. I think there's this concept. It's called transferee liability. So that the IRS could try to pursue that. The case that I'm thinking of was actually trust owned, so it was a little bit more complicated, where they were trying to. It's complicated.
Okay, no worries.
The trust the liability was to the trust, so they were saying could the IRS come after the trustee or the beneficiaries? So in that case, there's a lot of information about when the U.S. government is a creditor of an entity or an estate. So it can get complicated, but it's possible.
Okay. Yeah, we could chat more offline. I was just curious.